I've explained earlier in my reply that yes, as a coastal state of Mauritius can, where necessary, we can design ship routing. But as I've said earlier, the inquiry is going on. It's still going on. Things are going on now. An inquiry was done by the national disaster, and another inquiry is going on now. We are looking at that. We have identified, I've just mentioned it. We are looking into these issues. But if you tell me why we have not done it now, okay. We are planning to do it. I've mentioned it, we are going to do it. It takes a bit of time. We are going to do it just overnight. It takes a bit of time, we are going to work on it. Because it's kind of things. According to UNCLOS, we can do it. But we have to inform UNCLOS as well. We are going to do this. We just can't decide we are going to do it and that's it.
Mr. Speaker, sir, the Minister just told us that for the 1 year he has done nothing. I'd like to ask him whether he's aware that between the last 3 months only, there have been 3 ships that broke down in the territorial waters of Mauritius, and had the Prime Minister designated the sea lanes, this would not have happened.
What's the question?
May I ask the Honourable Minister, Mr. Speaker, whether he can tell us, as he's responsible for disaster risk reduction, why the government has not yet purchased a powerful tug so that you are able to pull any of these ships out of danger zone?
Mr. Speaker, trying to buy a tug is just...
Order there.
Trying to buy a tug. Is it just something you get off the shelf like that, Mr. Speaker, sir? Or is it something you had?
Honourable Danu, please withdraw from the chamber.
Yes, I was explaining, Mr. Speaker. Trying to buy a tug like that, it's not something you can just buy it like that. It's because you have to decide you're going to buy a tug for what kind of ship you're going to buy it, for what kind of capacity of ship you're going to buy it. So it takes of time. That's why I've mentioned it is in our report. We are going to consider it. We are going to do it. But to expect the country to go and buy a tug just like that without knowing what we are going to buy, I mean, and then you are going to come later, you criticize us, why did you buy this kind of tug? You didn't buy another tug. So, I mean, we have to be fair. We have to be fair about it.
At least a tug could have been ordered or a tender. Even that powerful tug, no tender, 1 year. What about a lifeboat? Is that also something that you will take too difficult to purchase? A lifeboat? Because we're a cyclone-prone nation, we have so many ships around the country. Have you bought or have recommended the purchase of a lifeboat?
This is not actually, we have towing boat here, we have vessel. It's not mentioned here. What's mentioned, we are going to act on it, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, it's well known that 30,000 ships go by our coast, eastern coast, every year. There are things that this was actually mentioned in the Court of Investigation. Buoys, Mr. Speaker, Raycon buoys, B-U-O-Y-S, which emit signals to passing ships to warn them of the danger of Mauritius. Why have you not yet recommended, or why has the government not yet purchased any of these buoys to place on the eastern coast of Mauritius at least?
But we are saying that we are looking at the regulation of passage of the ship. But, I mean, you can laugh at it, but if you were in my place, you would not have been able to order it just like that. This kind of thing takes time. We've got a report, the inquiry has been done, we have got the report, and the government is going to take measures. We are going to take measures. To tell me that I'm not in 1 year, we have not taken the measures. And you know the situation we are living with nowadays, with the COVID. When this thing happened, the vacation incident, we're in the middle of COVID. You know what was the situation at that time. Can we just, get everything, like it's a normal time and get everything sorted out as it used to be? No. There's a lot of restriction in the present situation. So, we have to appreciate. We don't pretend that, look, everything is like normal and we have to get it done overnight. No.
Mr. Speaker, can I ask the Honourable Minister, his officers have said in the Court of Investigation that Mauritius is only equipped to deal with an oil spill of 100 tons, whereas 1,000 tons were spilled, 4,000 tons were on board that ship. Why is it that 12 months later, we can still only deal with an oil spill of 100 tons, Mr. Speaker?
Same thing, Mr. Speaker, sir. We have tried to identify the issues, the problem, and we are going to try to sort it out. I've said it. If we were not going to, Mr. Speaker, if we were not genuine about trying to find a solution, I wasn't going to come and mention it in the House. If I was not going to act on this. The fact that we have done an inquiry, we are going to act on it. But I've explained, it takes time. In the situation as we are living now, it takes time. So we have to accept. And that's why we have not been able to do so far. But we are working on it.
Mr. Speaker, most of the accidents can happen at night. For night operations, are you aware, is the Minister aware that it takes 4 hours to put the Barracuda to sea, 2 hours to put the Dornier to fly, 1 hour for the helicopter to fly? This, Mr. Speaker, means that there is no emergency response time at all in Mauritius 1 year after the Wakashio, the Sagaï Tangiva sank, and the poor fishing boat sank also recently. There is still no 24/7 emergency rescue system in this country for ships.
Mr. Speaker, sir.
None.
Mauritius, it's easy to come and criticize like that. Mauritius, being a small island, so far from all the major places where you have these facilities, trying to get the help here like that, it's not easy, Mr. Speaker, sir. That's why I repeat myself. The leader of the opposition coming, after 1 year we have not got A. After 1 year we have not got B. After 1 year we have not got C. Damn it, it takes time. We know our responsibility. This government has been taking their responsibility. We know our responsibility. We have got our report. We have done the inquiry. We have got the report, and we are going to do the work.
Mr. Speaker, the nation will take their own conclusions. I'll ask the Honourable Minister one last question on this point. The Poudre-d'Or National Coast Guard post only has a pirogue and a 25 HP outboard engine which they carry on their shoulders. There have recently been deaths there, and that is where the Sagaï Tangiva sank, Mr. Speaker. Why hasn't the Poudre-d'Or Coast Guard post and also the Meibo Coast Guard post been substantially upgraded since the Wakashio and other incidents on the East Coast? That also takes time.
Naturally, it takes time, because if we have started working, if we have started to do the work previously, if we have started to do the work, and then the work is not up to standard, the leader of the opposition will come to the House and said, what are you doing? You have put something which is not needed there. So that's why we are taking, okay, we take our time, but we'll do it properly, for God's sake. That's why. I mean, if you can't say, we have not got A, it takes time. B, take time. C, take time. But damn it, everything takes time. We have to study the thing and then we come with it.
Mr. Speaker, we have just got the finance bill, which is amending 93 laws. He himself said that one of the main reasons for the very slow and inadequate response to the Wakashio shipwreck was divided responsibilities between the Director of Shipping, Environment, the MPA, Coast Guard, your ministry, etc. Why hasn't at least legislation been put in this House so that you would, in fact, get rid of these divided responsibilities and have one person in charge when the next disaster occurs, as it will?
Mr. Speaker, sir, we have had an inquiry done. We have one other inquiry going on. Once we get the inquiry, once everything is done, we are going to get that sorted out. I've repeated it so many times, we are going to get it done. And the leader of the opposition is going, it's 1 year, 1 year, 1 year, 1 year. But what are we supposed to do? The next day after Wakashio, we were supposed to order each and everything like that? Is that what he would have done? It's so easy to criticize from the opposition. It's so easy. After 1 year, you have not done this. After 1 year, you have not done this. But damn it, it takes time.
Speaker, the budget for the acquisition of equipment for the National Disaster Whatever Center that he has been reduced from 8 million last year to 800,000 this year. So how can he explain that although he has done nothing at all, he neither has the budget to do anything for the next 12 months?
Mr. Speaker, the National Disaster Center has been doing a great job. It has been a great job. It is, I mean, with so many times, in so emergencies, they have been working to save lives. And now to come today trying to discredit the center, it's so easy. But the job is being done and it's going to be done.
Last supplementary.
Yes.
You finish?
No, it's okay.
Last
Mr. Speaker,
supplementary.
okay. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to ask Honourable Minister, now it is all, at the end of the day, a question of human resources. We saw that no one, even from the Coast Guard, was able to dive on the site. You had to get a foreigner to do it. And your own people at the Court of Investigation that there is insufficient training and no training at all in Mauritius as far as towing of ships are concerned. What have you done during the past 12 months? This is all the question is about training of your personnel in towing of ships and in diving so that next time we don't have to sit around and wait for foreigners to come.
Again, we come back to just 1 year. Nothing has been done for 1 year. But if you have not done the study, how would we have identified the shortcomings that we have? We have done the inquiry, Mr. Speaker, sir, at the National of the Disaster Center, at the Ministry of the Merchant Shipping Department. They have done the inquiry, and we have identified our shortcoming, and we are going to act on it. The leader of the opposition is saying 1 year, 1 year. Okay, it takes time. I don't think. Maybe suppose we have done it in 6 months' time, he would have been, why don't you do it in 3 months' time? It's always the same. It's always so easy to criticize. But no. What I want to mention, Mr. Speaker, we have had a major problem with Wakashio. We have learned a lot of lessons from Wakashio. We have gotten inquiries done, not 1, 2 inquiries done, and we have identified our shortcoming. We have identified where we have to improve, and we have done all this what for? Not to do anything? No. We have done all this to work on it, and we are going to work and try to establish and to do what is needed. If you have to buy tugs, this, by the way, is bought by the MPA. If you have to buy a tug to sort out the sea lane and other equipment, the government is going to do it. We have contacted DIA, we have contacted the Japan government to help us on that. We have not been sitting, we have contacted the Japan government to help us on all these issues. So to come and say that we have not done anything and to laugh sarcastically, well, I'll leave it to the leader of the opposition.
Time over. Prime Minister, question time. Honourable members advise that PQB 1860 has been withdrawn. Honourable team.
B859.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I am replying to both parliamentary questions B859 and B861 as they relate to the same subject matter. The Mauritius National Identity Card project was implemented in 2013 by a consortium comprising the Singapore Corporation Enterprise, Nippon Electric Company, and Crimson Logic Private Limited under a government-to-government agreement between the governments of Mauritius and Singapore. The MNIC system became operational in October 2013. During the implementation phase of the system, court cases were lodged before the Supreme Court of Mauritius, including one by myself and one by Mr. Madeu. In my plaint with summons before the Supreme Court, I sought redress under Section 17 of the Constitution on the grounds that Sections 3A, B, and C, Sections 7, 1, 9, and 13 of the Constitution were likely to be contravened by the storage and retention in a database of my biometric information and fingerprints, which will be in possession of the Registrar of Civil Status. In his plaint with summons before the Supreme Court, in addition to an order to challenging the constitutionality of the storage and retention of the biometric data on the database, Mr. Madeu also challenged the constitutionality of the retention of the biometric data on the national identity card. In its judgments delivered on 29th May 2015, the Supreme Court concluded inter alia that the law which enforces the compulsory taking and recording of fingerprints of a citizen of Mauritius for the purposes of his national identity card discloses an interference with the plaintiff's rights against the search of his person guaranteed under Section 9(1) of the Constitution and the provisions of the National Identity Card Act and the Data Protection Act for the storage and the retention of these fingerprints and other personal biometric data collected for the purpose of the biometric identity card of a citizen of Mauritius were unconstitutional. Consequently, in light of the two judgments of the Supreme Court, all fingerprints which were stored in the centralized MNIC database were destroyed in September 2015. However, in the same judgments, the Supreme Court made two further orders. One, the law which enforces the compulsory taking and recording of fingerprints for the purposes of a national identity card constitutes a permissible derogation in the interest of public order under Section 9(2) of the Constitution. And two, the law providing for the storage and retention of fingerprints and other personal biometric data regarding the identity of a person constituted a permissible derogation in the interests of public order under Section 9(2) of the Constitution. It is on the basis of these derogations that the fingerprints of applicants for a national biometric identity card are still being captured and stored temporarily in the centralized MNIC database for a maximum of 7 days to enable the fingerprint minutiae to be generated and captured in the chip of the national identity card. These minutiae enable one-to-one verification of the identity of the cardholder at the time of collection of the card. The fingerprint data in the centralized MNIC database is automatically destroyed as soon as the card is dispatched to the collection center. Following the Supreme Court judgment, Mr. Madeu appealed to the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council, but the appeal was dismissed on 31st October 2016. The board noted, inter alia, that the fingerprint minutiae cannot be used to recreate the image of the fingerprint. In other words, there would be no risk that the original fingerprint of an individual could be recreated and misused by another person. Mr. Speaker, sir, subsequently, being dissatisfied with the judgment of the Supreme Court and the decision of the Privy Council, Mr. Madeu forwarded a communication to the United Nations Human Rights Committee for consideration under the optional protocol to the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, wherein he alleged that his right to privacy under Article 17 of the ICCPR was violated as pursuant to the provisions of the National Identity Card Act, he had the mandatory obligation to provide his fingerprints for the purpose of obtaining a national identity card. On 4th of April 2018, the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights requested, through diplomatic channel, the views of the State of Mauritius at latest by 26th of September 2018 on the admissibility and merits of the submissions made by Mr. Madeu. The State of Mauritius responded to the Human Rights Committee on 20th September 2018, refuting with legal justifications the averments of Mr. Madeu that the National Identity Card Scheme was in violation of Article 17 of the ICCPR. We have now, on 21st July 2021, received an advance unedited version of the views of the United Nations Human Rights Committee on the matter, wherein it is stated, amongst others, that the state party, that is Mauritius, has not provided enough information regarding the implementation of measures to protect the biometric data stored on the identity cards. 2, has not provided sufficient guarantees against the risk of abuse and arbitrariness following the potential access to such data on identity cards. And 3, has not provided information as to how the storage and retention of fingerprint data on identity cards can effectively prevent identity fraud. Consequently, the UNHRC concluded that the right of privacy was violated given the lack of information provided by Mauritius concerning the implementation of measures to protect the biometric data stored on the identity cards. The committee further pointed out that it was essential that any biometric scheme be accompanied by robust safeguards to protect the right to privacy of the citizens. Mr. Speaker, sir, I am apprised that the information provided to the UNHRC was mainly from a legal perspective. Information was not provided regarding the existing technical safeguards, such as the security access modules card used to protect fingerprint minutiae, so as to prevent any possibility of arbitrariness and abuse of the fingerprint data of any citizen that may arise from the issuance of an identity card. Furthermore, the fingerprint minutiae cannot be used to recreate the original fingerprint image. Mr. Speaker, sir, the UNHRC has requested the State of Mauritius to provide Mr. Madeu with an effective remedy and sufficient guarantees against the risk of arbitrariness and abuse of his fingerprints data that may arise from the issuance of an identity card to him. Mauritius is also required to review the ground for storing and retaining fingerprint data on identity card in light of the UNHRC views and to take steps to avoid similar violations in the future. the committee has requested the State of Mauritius to provide within 180 days information about the measures taken to give effect to the committee's views and to publish the present views and disseminate them broadly in the official language of the state party. To this effect, I have set up an interministerial committee to be chaired by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Regional Integration and International Trade, and comprising the Attorney General, the Minister of Information Technology, Communication and Innovation, as well as other officials and co-opted members as and when required to propose an effective remedy that may be provided to Mr. Madeu and examine in depth the views of the committee and to come up with recommendations and to prepare the response to be made to the UNHRC within the time limit. Concerning the present views submitted by the committee, action is being taken to disseminate them broadly in our official language. Mr. Speaker, sir, as regards the proposed revamping of the MNIC system, I have been informed by the Ministry of Information Technology, Communication and Innovation that the usual lifetime of such IT equipment is between 5 to 7 years. Hence, after almost 8 years of operation, it has become necessary to revamp the existing Mauritius National Identity Card scheme, as the current hardware and software of the whole system will soon reach their end of support and end of life, with the consequences that the hardware of the present system will need to be replaced, as it is no longer being supported by the vendor, resulting in spare parts and security patches being no longer available. Then, along with the hardware, the software components need to be replaced as well, as they are also no longer being supported by their respective vendors, and all software versions will not be compatible with new hardware. And moreover, the manufacturer of the national identity card has ceased to manufacture the current card version used by the MNIC system. The new version of the card proposed by the manufacturer will not be compatible with the current system. Furthermore, the stock of the existing card is expected to last up to December 2023. Mr. Speaker, sir, there is therefore no other alternative than to revamp the existing system if we want to be able to make available a national identity card to each of our eligible citizens, whilst ensuring that we keep pace with the latest technology and the development of new international practice with regard to the use of biometric data. In the proposed revamping process, we wish, as a visionary government, to take the opportunity to upgrade the system to the state-of-the-art one, which will provide a wider spectrum of customized e-services and thereby further facilitating the daily activities of our citizens. Such smart cards are already being used in countries like Belgium, Finland, Germany, Estonia, and France, amongst others. Mr. Speaker, sir, with a view to ascertaining the timely implementation of the revamping project, a steering committee chaired by the Honorable Minister of Information Technology, Communication and Innovation, and a technical committee chaired by the Secretary for Home Affairs have been set up to closely monitor compliance with all the required technical and legal framework requirements of the project. I am informed that presently wide consultations are being held with all concerned stakeholders, and considerable progress has been made with regard to the preparation of the specifications and the procurement strategy to be adopted on the basis of the existing as well as the European Data Protection Supervisor Opinion 7/2018 of August 2018. Mr. Speaker, sir, now that we have the advanced unedited version of the views of the Human Rights Committee, the Steering Committee and the Technical Committee will, during their discussions, consider the impact of these views on the implementation of the revamping project and make appropriate recommendations thereon. Due consideration will be given to any legislative amendment and technical modification, if so required, prior to the coming into operation of the updated MNIC system. The new system is expected to be operational by December 2023.
Honorable Team,
No supplementary.
Honorable Abin. So we move. Honorable.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. With regards to the existing MNIC system, can the Honorable Prime Minister inform the House when did it become operational and what was the cost of its implementation?
Well, let me try to find out if I have the information. Yes, the cost of the project which is being implemented jointly by my office and the Ministry of Information Technology, Communication and Innovation is estimated to be around 230 million rupees, inclusive of VAT, over a period of 2 years. I am informed that a number of new add-ons are also being considered in the new system at a cost of 32 million rupees, subject to the financial clearance being obtained. But as for the MNIC, I think the cost would be around 1.1 billion. I think, if I have the information, yes. So it was under a G2G agreement between the government of Mauritius and Singapore at a cost of 1.1 billion rupees. And maybe it's good to remind the House also that prior to this G2G agreement, I'm sure the honorable members of the MMM would remember there was a tender that was carried out, and I think the best price that was quoted was around 400 million rupees by a company, but then the then government didn't find it worth going ahead and then decided to go for this G2G project, which has cost the government, in fact, it has cost the government more than 1.1 billion rupees.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. In his reply, the Prime Minister made mention of a new proposed system. Can the Honourable Minister provide us with some details about the procurement strategy of this new proposed system? Thank you.
Well, there were 4 possibilities that were considered, namely a government-to-government collaboration, like what was done previously, or going for open advertised bidding, or restricted bidding, or expression of interest followed by a request for proposals. Now, with a view to ensuring that the most competitive procurement method is used and to ensure full transparency, whilst at the same time taking into consideration the sensitive and confidential nature of the data on each card, my office has had several meetings with the Procurement Policy Office and the Central Procurement Board to that effect. And in light of the consultations that have been held, my office, in collaboration with the Ministry of Technology, Communication and Innovation, will soon launch an expression of interest, which will, of course, be followed by a request for proposal.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Can the Honourable Prime Minister provide us with more information as to the process which was adopted for the revamping of the system? Thank you.
Order.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, a steering committee under the chair of the Minister of Information Technology, Communication and Innovation was set up to, inter alia, advise the government of Mauritius on any aspect of the MNIC, review the MNIC project, and project manage duties and ensure completion of tasks in connection with the MNIC project. And in order to ensure that all technical...
Order. Question time. You have a supplementary?
You answered my question. The committee set up chair. It's already said that.
You want to answer? You want to answer in my place? You want to answer? Because you know everything. You're the most knowledgeable person. Give here.
Order. Order. Order.
Monsieur le Président, j'ai une question inscrite aujourd'hui concernant directement le Premier ministre sur l'affaire Angus Road. Le Premier ministre a pris tout son temps pour répondre à une seule question pendant 30 minutes. Alors...
Please, you stop there.
Alors, question, c'est le Premier ministre direct...
You stop there. This is not a point of order. This is not a point of order. Please, give the Prime Minister time to answer his question. No, don't talk to me. You have no right to talk to me. You don't have the floor. You don't have the floor. Yes, I have already given my ruling. Yes, I have already given my ruling. I've already given my ruling. I repeat my ruling. I repeat my ruling. This is not a point of order, Honourable Member. This is your opinion, and my ruling is final. Honourable Prime Minister, you continue.
So may I continue with my reply? So I was saying, Mr. Speaker, sir, that...
What are you talking about? Please continue. Talking about you look at your face. Look at your face. Continue. Look at your face. 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 Look at your face.
Section 47. Je voudrais citer section 47 et oui, ensuite vous donnez vos mots, Monsieur le Président. Merci. Monsieur le Président, la section 47 du Standing Order, irrelevance and repetition. The Speaker or the person presiding, after having called the attention of the Assembly or the committee to the conduct of a member who persists in irrelevance and tedious repetition, either on his or an argument. Le Premier ministre répète pendant 30 minutes.
Don't give a verdict. You already made your point of order. Who can judge the relevance, you or me? So, Prime Minister,
So
terminate with your reply.
yes, I was saying, Mr.
Order! 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 Order there also. Both sides of the House, order. Please.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, sir, as I was saying, the committee has been set up under the chair of the Minister of Information, Technology, Communication and Innovation to advise the government of Mauritius on any aspect of the MNIC, to review the MNIC project, and to project manage duties and ensure completion of the tasks in connection with the MNIC project. In order to ensure that all technical and non-technical aspects of the project were captured, a technical committee was set up under the chair of the Secretary for Home Affairs, and 4 subcommittees have been set up also. The first one, under the responsibility of the Prime Minister's office, to look into the legal and policy matters. The other subcommittee, under the responsibility of the Central Informatics Bureau, to look into the infrastructure matters. A third subcommittee, under the responsibility of the Ministry of TCI, to look into the application and the card usage matters. And the fourth subcommittee has the responsibility, under the responsibility of the Civil Status Division, to look into the HR and logistics matters. Several meetings of the steering committee, the technical committee, and the different subcommittees have already taken place, and a number of important recommendations with respect to the technical features of the new card have already been taken.
Time over. I'll suspend the sitting for 1.5 hours.